good afternoon, financial professionals. I am Phil Haug, Senior Vice President of Sales at E4 Insurance Services. Welcome you to the Brew, Building Relationships Every Week. Thank you for tuning in today. For those of you joining Brew for the first time, welcome. And we'd like to start our Brewcast as we do every week with recognizing and celebrating today's national days. And sometimes I like to kind of put these things together. And this is a day today I can't really do that. My brain just can't wrap around. It's National Bow Tie Day. It's National Power Rangers Day, and it's National Cherry Turnover Day. So that's interesting combination of those three things. So I guess we could get our kids a Power Ranger, maybe wear a bow tie for our presentations, and celebrate with a cherry turnover. That's the best I got. So on today's brew, we are going to be wrapping up August focus planning series on life insurance and qualified plans. And today we've got Corey Cox, Senior Consultant for the Business Solutions with Principal, who's going to be discussing retaining key employees by utilizing deferred comp plans and executive bonus plans with Principal's Select Reward Plan and Bonus Plan. As always, we encourage you to use the chat box or raise your hand to ask any questions. All attendees will be entered into a drawing for a CE voucher and a Starbucks gift card, and we'll announce the winner at the end. And thank you again for tuning in and listening to Corey and talk about his stuff as solutions with Principal. And I ironically just kind of wanted to bring light to relevant to the day. In the last week, we've actually had a couple cases, some larger cases that have gone through with Principal, and just kind of wanted to pull those out and highlight them just to give you an example of what's out there before Corey dives into it. We had an individual working with an advisor. He was an investor and a partner in a very successful business and came in to do some personal work. And they're having a conversation and kind of diving into it. And the individual started to understand the importance of life insurance and how it was needed for his wealth transfer and his family's need. And the conversation kind of evolved and the business is successful. And he started asking about, got a business, is there anything else that's out there? And the advisor said, well, there is. And they presented one of these plans from Principal. And what started as about a $4,500 to $5,500 individual case became a $78,000 a group plan or GSI plan for the executives for the business. So again, it was that advisor took the time, understood what Principal had to offer, and was able to present it in a way that the business owner saw it as a benefit and provided it for his top people. Similar case, we've got another group of, we do get, there's competition and competition is healthy, right? So we got an opportunity on a group of 17 executives. Same thing, we shopped it out. They qualified for a couple different platforms that are out there. And we had an opportunity for Principal to take a look at it. And they came back with a very competitive offer and we'll be winning that case. So a lot of activity in this space, a lot of energy around the space. So we thought it was really timely with our Brew series, focusing on business owners and especially qualified plans and deferred comp to invite Corey in as he's the expert in this area. And with that, I set you up. Now I'll let you knock it down.
All right, Phil, appreciate it, sir. Thank you everyone for hopping on today. So like Phil said, we just want to talk through a couple solutions we have at Principal when it comes to retaining top talent. We have over 30 different solutions. Quite frankly, there's really 2 or 3 that we see and use the most. And before I kind of talk through these, I want to be very clear that, one is not necessarily better than another, right? They're just different and used for different situations. So I want to talk first kind of more about the group that we're kind of looking at, the best prospects. So I'm going to start backwards and kind of, because these are the questions I get the most. Who are the best prospects for these type of solutions? And then the other question is always why life insurance? And then of course I'll talk about a couple of the concepts and then wrap it up with a nice success story we had here. So no need to jot all this down to remember all this. I think what you should focus on here is really the industries and the business size and strength. So think white collar, right? Manufacturing, construction, finance, wholesaling, CPA firms, law firms, like those type of industries. To pare that down even further, think about an individual that's in a very competitive industry that they could likely leave for a salary increase down the road tomorrow, right? Those are the employees we're wanting to quote unquote, lock down and recruit and retain and reward, right? And then I think a lot of people, and this is funny because I was talking with a CFO of a company the other day, and I think it's always been a thought that, this deferred compensation or this retention strategies was geared only towards those higher earners, those key executives within a company. And when reality is we can do this on really any key employee that company deems vital to the success of the company, right? So think companies with, quite honestly, less than 100 employees, even more so. The majority of them are less than 50 employees. But at the same time, it needs to be a financially strong industry, a financially strong company. Then the next question I get is always, why life insurance? Why not mutual funds? Why not annuities? Why not just cash? And look, there's a time and place for all of those, right? We just use life insurance in these instances when we have a longer runway, such as 7+ years, because the death benefit is generally free from income tax, and you'll notice a trend here, right? It's tax efficient. So the life insurance is a tax advantaged asset on the client's net worth. Withdrawals can be made on a tax advantage basis. So again, tax advantages are overwhelmingly so with life insurance. So the first concept, right, and this is executive bonus, 162 bonus. This is a pretty common term that you might hear in the industry. Again, a lot of words, a lot of pictures here. Let's break this up into two sections. The top being that accumulation phase. So it's rather simple. The employer has an employee that they want to reward. They've been a loyal employee, or they don't want this employee to leave. That employer bonuses a contribution to the employee. That employee then pays an ordinary income tax on that bonus contribution. To go a step further, we can do what's called a double bonus. So what that does is, it very simply is another bonus that covers the income tax on that original bonus, right?
So you gross up the employee to cover the tax and the benefit, so it's a net zero cost for that employee.
Exactly. And I'll be honest with you, 9 times out of 10, that's usually the route the employers go, because, say they're already putting in, $10,000 a year into this plan, throw another couple thousand on top of it to cover the bonus. And now the employee is even happier about this plan, right?
And Corey, on these C corps, S corps, partnerships, sole proprietors, is there anybody any corporate structure that's kind of a no-go, or is it all kind of relatively green light?
It's relatively green light, other than an S owner, because at the end of the day, they're going to be paying that tax regardless. So there's really no workaround there. However, it's a great asset that they can use as an owner for additional supplemental retirement income. So that's assuming, right, they're maxing out all of their qualified plans, which likely they are. It's a great tool to set aside that they know that they're going to have cash in the future to use. So when it comes to like the tax benefits, it's not quite there for the S owner. However, it's still another resource for them to pull money from if need be in the future.
So just because they're an S corp doesn't mean we should exclude them from these options.
Yeah, correct. And when we say S corp, it's just the owner, like the employees. They're totally fine.
Owner.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Yep. And then skip to the bottom half here, the distribution phase. It's very simple. And the beauty of this is our business market administration team monitors these plans on an annual basis to make sure that that money's there when that employee needs it in the future. So we have what's called a restrictive agreement on this, that we can say, hey, between the employer and employee, you stick with me for X number of years, you have access to this money. If you leave before that time period, you're going to need to repay the premium, or whatever agreement they come to. So once they meet this, distribution phase, or their, agreement that the employer employee came to, this is now their life insurance policy to use as they plan. This is always from the beginning employee owned. I didn't mention that. So this life insurance plan is owned by the employee. So we'll touch on why that's important here in the next couple of slides. The next one is going to be the select reward plan. So 162 bonus or executive bonus, that's employee owned. Select reward plan is going to be employer owned. So think of that as a stronger golden handcuff, if you will. And taking it even a step back further here, right? There's really two questions that you can ask to determine which plan makes the most sense. Because as you recall, I said in the beginning, one plan is not better than another, they're just different. So the two questions: do you
Hmm.
want a current tax deduction or do you want a deferred tax deduction? Because with a bonus, you get an immediate tax deduction as an owner because you
Hmm.
are bonusing that money to the employee because you do not own that policy as the owner of the business. So that's question one. Do you want a current tax deduction or a deferred one? The
Hmm.
second one is, do you want more control as the owner? Because at the end of the day, a bonus is owned by that employee. We can put what's called that restrictive agreement on it that makes that stickier, but a select reward plan is going to be even stickier because that life insurance policy that's being used to informally fund this plan is employer owned. So if that employee leaves at any time before that set period of time that they agreed on, that employee gets nothing. That employer can now use that money within that life insurance policy to hire, to recruit, whatever they need that money for to kind of stop that gap in loss, and it's their money to use as they please.
Kind of a golden handcuff, golden parachute type plan.
Exactly. Exactly. And select reward is a principal term. So think of this as more like a corporately owned life insurance plan,
Hmm.
um, where, again, you have some visuals here, but the key employee has, a life insurance policy taken out on them. They pay an economic benefit cost on that. And it's very minimal, right? It's pennies on the dollar compared to what they're getting. That way, that death benefit is a tax-free death benefit to their beneficiary if anything were to happen during that funding period.
Okay.
And let's just use an example here. Let's say it's a 10-year period that the employee came to because this it's a top sales individual for a company. They are vital to the success of the company. The employer recognizes that. They recognize that this employee leaves tomorrow, their bottom line is going to be greatly affected. So let's put
Right.
into a select reward plan, informally fund it with life insurance because we have this 10-year window, which is the perfect time frame to be able to fund a life insurance plan properly. And now you have that stickiness between employer and employee, and you have them not just a loyal employee now, but your company continues to thrive.
We had a similar presentation not that long ago, and there was a president of a group that was not an owner, and he saw this and he liked it, and he ended up doing quite well, and ended up going to the owner, who was a kind of a silent owner, I guess, and said, "Hey, don't." They were going to give him more money. He said, "Don't pay me the additional money. Do this for me instead." So he ended up setting up a plan like this to the tune of about $65,000 a year, where he's like, I got enough money to cover my cash flow, my lifestyle. He goes, I like this idea. And the owner thought it was fantastic because it gave him, again, the individual is integral to the success of the business. He was worried about retention. Every successful business owner is worried about, you have to keep your best people, right? And you got to keep them happy, and you got to make them, people want to hang out where they're valued. And these are the types of plans that definitely convey that there's some value to being part of that team, right?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, right? Because we could fund, or we could give a bonus to a key employee, we as in the business owner, a bonus or raise their salary, but what's keeping them around tomorrow? They could accept that bonus and leave tomorrow, right? Where a plan like this, it's, if you leave tomorrow, you get nothing. It's the employer's plan, right? So it creates that, again, that stickiness.
Yeah, you're hedging on the back end if that
Yep,
individual leaves. Yeah. Yeah, they don't you
exactly.
give them if you give them a bonus, they're not going to remember that you bought them a refrigerator in 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll talk about, some of the services we offer so that the employee can actually monitor this plan just like they would their 401k. So they
Hmm.
can see how much money has gone into the policy, where the cash value is at. That way it keeps them on track too, right? Because if we have a 10-year period, the employee might start getting a little bored thinking, where's my money at? Well, if they can visually see those dollars growing and a light at the end of the tunnel, they're more likely to stay around. That's why 10 to 15 years is kind of the sweet spot for a plan like this. 10 being that's where life insurance starts to shine in terms of cash value growth, but 15 years, um, you can start going past that too far without vesting schedules.
Hmm.
Kind of hard for an employee to think about staying at a company that long, right? Especially in today's day and age, you just don't see it that much anymore. So I'm gonna dumb it down even further here, and this is, clearly compliance approved, written by me here, but 162 bonus and select reward. So one of my colleagues actually illustrated it this way before, and the sports fanatic that I am, I really like this, right? Because this goes back to, again, one not being better than another, they're just different. At the end of the day, it all goes down the goalpost there to employee retention. So think two goalposts here. The left side is the 162 bonus. The right side is the select reward. Again, it goes back to those two questions. Do you want a current tax deduction, or are you okay with a deferred tax deduction? And do you want more control or maybe a little bit less control? More control and deferred tax deduction is going to be select reward, because remember, that's corporately owned. The corporation owns that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little less control. However, we can still do that restrictive agreement. And a immediate tax deduction is going to be a bonus, a 162 bonus, because the employee owns that plan. Steve, is there a question in the chat? I saw it pop up here.
No, it's just
Okay.
sharing a reminder for the participants that
Okay.
are
All
everybody in the library.
No worries. So take this back with you. Principal did not put that together. I did myself, but I think that really helped me when years ago when I started, and it was illustrated to me this way. It kind of helps explain where maybe one may be better than another, depending on what the employer employee are after.
And you mentioned something earlier that I was going to ask. You mentioned the CFO. Do you see a lot of these once you get to a certain size business? Is it somewhat of a CFO decision?
Yeah, in terms of the decision that is.
Yeah.
Typically, CFO, or once the CEO finds out about it and they see how slick it is, or even just like the HR team too. But yeah, the CFO, they're typically looped in on these calls a lot, right? So, and then sometimes it's even on them, and then we explain how this can be used for any key employee, because this isn't a true non-qualified comp plan where we need the owner or the employee to be in the top 10% of compensation. Right. Because with this plan, we don't require separation of service.
Okay.
So they can continue working. That's really important that I should have added there, but you do not have to retire as an employee with a select reward plan. You can continue on. You can flip that select reward plan into a bonus plan and use it for supplemental retirement income, or use that lump sum amount for a down payment on a vacation home, pay off student loans, fund college for your kid, right? Really, however the employee wants to use that money after the service period ends, they can do so. And at the same time, continue working for the company and maybe come up with a new select reward plan, or at that point, maybe a bonus plan, because they've been at the company for so long. They're not leaving at this point. They are, there for the long haul, but the employer still wants to reward them.
Okay.
So this is new here, hot off the press. We recently added another administration service to our select reward plan. So you heard me earlier mention business market administration team. That's our in-house team that monitors and does the administration on these plans on a complimentary basis. So no third-party administrator or any of that good stuff. It's all done here in-house. But we now have a second option for these select reward plans. I'll just get the caveat right out of the way on the front end here. There's an annual fee of $500 plus $75 per participant. If you've done a non-qualified plan before, though, that is a wild discount compared to how much some of those plans cost. Those are thousands of dollars a year plus the participant fee. But what do you get here? It's the annual plan review. So we do review all of our other plans on typically 2-3 year basis, but this guarantees that it's being reviewed annually. But more importantly, this gives the employee online access, because if you recall, a select reward plan is a corporately owned life insurance. So it is the employer's asset. It is their policy technically taken out on you. But now this allows that employee to view it like their 401k would. So they can see, again, how much money is being built up in it, where they're at in the process, and how close they are to their service period ending. So this is huge. Again, just rolled out. So I don't see this being a everyone takes it, right? But there's going to be several employees. We get that question a lot of, well, can I view it? Can I see if I'm on pace? Especially if we're talking 10 to 15 years, right? I think an employer is going to love that too, so it can keep that stickiness between the employer and the employee.
Have that hook.
Yep, that's right. So last slide, and then I'll do a sales idea or case study that we had here. This is just our business market administration team, that dedicated administrator that's there to lean on, whether it's just a simple address change, beneficiary change, whatever it may be, or maybe there's more. They want to add someone to the plan, right? If we have a guaranteed issue case, which we can do executive bonus and select reward plan within the guaranteed issue chassis, if we have 10 or more lives, we can add people to that. And that's where the dedicated administrator on this team can assist in doing that. So you're not calling up an 800 number or sitting on hold forever. It is a real life person to help with these type of plans.
Nice.
So case study. This was something that recently happened earlier this year. Long story short, there was an acquisition. A private equity firm bought another company. That company, that smaller company, was matching their 401k up to 14%, where the company buying in was like, yeah, we can't do that. However, they came to us and started talking about some solutions, and we were like, well, why don't we look at doing like an executive bonus on a guaranteed issue chassis, so we can fund it to the levels that they were being bonus for their 401k. So there were 14 employees. Retention wasn't the primary focus here. It was trying to keep their quote unquote benefits similar to what they had before. And they had that retirement gap because of that, because they were no longer able to get that 14%. It went down to the kind of the traditional 4 or 5% amount. What did that turn into, right? Well, we used an IUL accumulation product on that guaranteed issue chassis. For those of you who haven't utilized guaranteed issue, what it means: no underwriting, no needles, labs, exams, none of that fun stuff. Just a de-identified prescription check that we do to make sure that the overall group score is somewhat healthy. This worked out perfectly, and over $160,000 in premium for this type of case. So clearly, the opportunity is there. I understand not all cases are this large, but just to your point in the beginning, Phil, it can start out with a conversation, right? It could be one individual, and you start fact finding, asking, hey, this plan can not just be for you, but it could be for your employees. What are you doing to help recruit and retain them and keep them around long term?
Well, and I think that this is a good case example, and I talked about the one earlier too, and I asked about CFO because a lot of times businesses are making decisions to retain their employees, but a disproportionate amount of a percentage goes to, I don't want to call them rank and file, but it goes to the lower compensated individuals. Like, these are the types of plans that they get a little bit of traction because they are benefiting the executives, they are benefiting the decision makers. The businesses are successful. They need to retain and attract key people. And it makes it an easy conversation to say, hey, Mr. CEO or Mrs. CFO, like, this is going to benefit you and your family, as well as retain some top talent. It's kind of, there's no such thing as no brainers, but it's pretty close, if you can just open up that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, it's relative here, but this is a way more inexpensive option than having to hire additional employees, especially at this level, right? I mean, these are the folks that are being reversely discriminated against. Group benefits are great for what they are, right?
Yeah.
But they're covering those rank and file employees. So this is something that we can layer on to those key executives, key employees, typically making in excess of 100 to 150,000, and provide another benefit for them. So it's another benefit. It's another suite of solutions that an employer can offer.
Yeah.
Not just to existing employees, right? But to recruiting.
Yeah.
Like, this can be a recruiting tool. Like, hey, look, we have this guaranteed issue program, or this platform that we have on these employees. When we bring you on, we'd like you to be a part of that as well. And oh, by the way, we're going to pay for it for you because we appreciate the work that you do for the company.
And consulting firm after consulting firm talks about, there's white papers that, all you have to do is do a quick LinkedIn perusal, and you'll see there's a talent gap. Industry after industry, there's a large gap of talent. So, there's only so many people. When you start getting into the higher levels of running these complex organizations, there's only so many people out there that can do that. So, well, we do appreciate you taking time and dropping some knowledge on us. While we wait for any final questions, I'd like to remind everybody that today's brew, as well as our entire library, will be recorded and shared on the brew page at our website, e4.insurance. I don't see any additional questions or hand raises. I do see a Zscaler popping up though every once in a while. I get how that happens. And we do have our giveaway today. So Corey, I'd like you to pick a number between 1 and 35.
23.
23, good old Michael Jordan. And that is the lucky number for Bill. And right now, Bill will be on the lookout for a complimentary CE voucher and a gift card coming your way from all of us here at E4 Insurance Services. Next week, we will be kicking off our September focus planning series, and changing our habits and behaviors can be very hard and requires commitment and intentionality. It also requires stepping outside of our comfort zone to do the right thing and ensure our clients' well-being. Join Rod Crandall, Regional Vice President for E4, to discuss how to effectively and intentionally lead the conversation that results in agreement and action by our clients. And September's Life Insurance Awareness Month, so it's a big month for everybody in the industry. So I do appreciate everybody investing the time. Thank you again. Thank you, Corey, and we'll see you on the next brew.